There was a time when darkness truly came. No switches on the wall, no bright lights flooding every corner. When the sun went down, the world grew dim. Cities and towns waited in shadow. The night was something people prepared for, something they respected. Because once the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, there was no easy way to bring back the light. Candles flickered in windows, fireplaces glowed inside homes. But outside, the streets lay dark and empty. People stayed indoors. They finished their work before dusk. They knew that moving through town at night meant stumbling, tripping, getting lost. The darkness was complete, heavy, absolute. And then quietly, the lamplighters arrived. They walked the streets each evening, carrying light with them. One lamp at a time, they pushed back the dark. This was their purpose, their calling. To make the night a little less frightening, a little more navigable. Dusk settles over a quiet street. The sky turns from blue to purple to black. The last birds call out and fly to their roosts. Wooden houses stand silent, their shutters closed, their doors latched. Stone paths fade into shadow, the cobblestones disappear. Everything waits. Then somewhere down the lane, a small flame appears. It's faint at first, barely visible. Then another light joins it. And another. Warm circles of light begin to glow. They touch the old walls. They reflect in windows. They make the cobblestones shine softly. The street transforms, slowly, gently. What was invisible becomes visible again. What was empty becomes welcoming. This was the evening ritual. This was how night began. Not with the flip of a switch, but with the quiet work of one person walking through town. The lamplighter brought the light, and the town came alive again. He didn't announce himself. He didn't make speeches. He simply did his work, night after night, year after year. And the people knew they could count on him. They knew that when darkness fell, the lights would follow. It was a promise kept every single evening. A small act of service that meant everything. The lamplighter knew every street, every corner, every lamp post. He could walk his route with his eyes closed if he needed to. Each lamp had its own character, its own quirks. Some lit easily, others required patience. Some stood tall on busy corners, others hid in narrow alleys. But he knew them all. He walked the same path each day as the light faded. His timing was perfect, not too early when daylight still lingered. Not too late when darkness had already claimed the streets. He moved with the dusk, part of the transition from day to night. In his hand a long wooden pole, smooth from years of use. At the end, a small flame or a wick ready to spark. The pole was his tool, his extension. It allowed him to reach the lamps high above the street. He approached each lamp with care. No rushing, no carelessness. Slowly he lifted the pole. The flame reached upward toward the gas valve. There was a soft click as the mechanism engaged. A gentle whoosh as the gas caught fire. And the glass globe filled with warm orange light. The lamp hummed softly, a low, steady sound. Then he moved to the next lamp, and the next. His footsteps were steady, his rhythm never changed. Boot heels on cobblestone, a sound that echoed slightly in the evening air. There was no hurry, no rush. This work couldn't be rushed, it required precision. Each lamp needed its moment, its proper attention. Just the quiet repetition of evening work. Up and down the streets he went, bringing light to every post. Past the baker's shop, past the church with its tall steeple. Past the fountain in the square, where children played during the day. Past the rows of narrow houses, where families gathered for supper. He knew who lived in each building. He knew their routines. He saw the candlelight appear in their windows as evening settled. Sometimes people nodded to him from their doorways. Sometimes children watched from windows, fascinated by the flame. But mostly he worked alone, in silence, in peace. People knew him by his silhouette, by the soft glow that followed him through the town. He was a familiar figure, a constant presence, part of the rhythm of daily life. He didn't speak much, he didn't need to. His work spoke for itself. Every lit lamp was a message, a promise. The town is safe, the night is manageable. You are not alone in the darkness. And as he finished his route and the last lamp glowed steadily, he would look back along the street, at the chain of lights stretching behind him, at the transformation he had created. Then he would return home, his work complete. Until tomorrow, when dusk would come again. And he would walk the same streets, light the same lamps, keep the same promise. Lighting the lamps was only part of the job. The visible part, the part people saw. But there was so much more that happened in daylight. Work that nobody noticed, but everyone depended on. Each day before dusk, there was maintenance. The lamplighter climbed his ladder, wooden rungs worn smooth by countless ascents. He opened the glass panels carefully. They were delicate, expensive to replace. Inside, the wick needed trimming. Too long and it would smoke, too short and it wouldn't light properly. He used small scissors, made precise cuts, removed the charred portions that would cause problems. The glass needed cleaning, always cleaning. Soot gathered on the inside from the burning gas, a thin black film that dimmed the light. Dust settled on the outside from the wind and weather. Rain left streaks, snow left residue. He wiped it carefully, making sure the light could shine clearly. A clean lamp gave strong, bright light. A dirty lamp barely glowed. The difference was significant, measurable. He checked the fuel levels, oil or gas depending on the lamp. Each town had its own system, its own technology. Some lamps burned whale oil, others used coal gas piped through underground lines. The newer ones used manufactured gas from the gasworks at the edge of town. Everything had to be ready before evening came. There was a smell to this work, distinct and memorable. The faint scent of lamp oil, sweet and slightly acrid. The metallic tang of gas, sharp and unmistakable. The warmth of the flame on cold nights, comforting despite the chill. His hands smelled of it, his clothes absorbed it. When he came home, his family knew where he'd been. It was simple work, repetitive work. The same tasks day after day, week after week. But it required patience and care. A dirty lamp gave weak light, people complained. A neglected wick flickered and failed, streets went dark. A poorly maintained lamp could leak gas, create danger. So the lamplighter took his time, he did the job right. He inspected every component, every connection. He tightened loose fittings, he replaced worn parts. He kept detailed notes about which lamps needed attention. Which ones burned through fuel too quickly. Which ones had cracked glass that needed replacing before winter. This was skilled work, technical work. It looked simple to those who watched. Just a man with a pole lighting lamps. But there was knowledge behind it, experience, judgment. He understood gas pressure, he understood combustion. He knew how weather affected the flames, how wind could extinguish them. He knew which lamps needed extra protection on stormy nights, which ones burned brighter and which ones struggled. And when dusk arrived, every lamp was ready. Trimmed, cleaned, fueled, prepared. Ready to serve the town for another night. This was craftsmanship. This was pride in one's work. Nobody gave him medals. Nobody wrote about him in newspapers. But every evening when the lights came on reliably, that was his reward. the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Watch the light spread slowly through the streets. It's a beautiful thing, a gradual transformation. One lamp glows near the town square. Its light creates a perfect circle on the ground. Then another appears 2 blocks away. A second circle joins the first. Then 3 more along the main road. The circles begin to overlap. The darkness retreats, lamp by lamp. Not all at once, not with fanfare, but steadily, inevitably. Warm halos form around each light, golden and soft. They overlap at the edges, creating patterns of brightness and shadow. The street becomes walkable again, safe again. You can see the stones beneath your feet. You can see where you're going. People step outside. They emerge from their homes. They walk to neighbors' homes for evening visits. They head to the tavern for conversation and warmth. They go to the church for evening services. Children play one last game before bed, tag in the lamplight. Their laughter echoes off the walls. The town feels alive, even in the dark. There's activity, movement, life. All made possible by those steady flames. This light was more than decoration. It was security. It meant you could see where you were going. You could avoid the puddles and the stones. You could see other people approaching, friend or stranger. It meant the night was not something to fear. Not something that trapped you indoors. It extended the day, gave people freedom. And all of it depended on one person, walking quietly, lighting each lamp with care. The lamplighter didn't just bring light, he brought comfort. He brought community. He reminded people that someone was watching over the town. That even in darkness there was warmth. That they were cared for, protected. In some cities there were dozens of lamplighters, hundreds even. Each responsible for their own district, their own streets. They worked at the same time, creating a wave of light across the entire city. Starting in the center and spreading outward. Or starting at the edges and moving inward. Each city had its own pattern, its own method. But the result was always the same. Darkness transformed into illuminated streets. Fear transformed into confidence. The lamplighter was often a retired soldier, or a man injured in an accident. Someone who needed work they could do at their own pace. Someone reliable, trustworthy. The job didn't pay much, but it was steady. And it came with respect, with dignity. People tipped their hats to the lamplighter. They greeted him warmly. They knew he served the community, that his work mattered. On winter nights, when snow fell and the cold was bitter, his job became harder. The wind tried to extinguish his lighting pole. The gas lamp struggled against the cold. But he persisted. He finished his route. Because people counted on him, especially on the darkest nights. On foggy nights, when visibility was poor, the lamps became even more crucial. They marked intersections. They guided travelers. Without them, the fog would swallow everything. And in summer, when evenings were long and warm, the lamplighter's walk became almost leisurely. A pleasant stroll through familiar streets. The lamps barely needed at first, but tradition demanded they be lit. And when full darkness finally came, they were ready. This was the rhythm of the town, the heartbeat of the community. Day faded, the lamplighter walked, the lights came on. People went about their evening business. And when they returned home, the lights still burned. Guiding them, welcoming them. Until morning came, and the lamplighter walked his route again. This time extinguishing the flames, returning the streets to daylight. Then things began to change. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. In some towns, electric poles appeared. Strange new structures, taller than the gas lamps. With wires strung between them like spider webs. New lights that needed no flame, no oil, no daily care. Someone far away flipped a switch, and every light came on at once. All together, instantly. No gradual spread, no gentle transformation. Just immediate harsh brightness. It was efficient, it was modern. It was the future, people said. And it meant the lamplighter was no longer needed. At first, the changes came to the biggest cities. London, Paris, New York. Places with money for new infrastructure. Places eager to embrace progress. The gas lamps remained in some districts, the electric lights in others. For a while, both systems existed side by side. The lamplighters continued their walks, even as electric lights appeared on neighboring streets. They could see the difference, the brightness of the new lights. The way they illuminated everything. No soft halos, no warm glow. Just pure white light. Some people loved it, they called it progress, improvement. Others missed the gentle gas lamps, the softer ambience. But opinion didn't matter much. The change was coming regardless. Slowly, one by one, the old lamps were replaced. The gas lines were capped, the lamp posts removed or converted. The lamplighters finished their final routes. In some towns there was a ceremony, a recognition of service. The last lamp lit, a speech given. But in most places there was nothing. Just a quiet conversation, a handshake. Your services are no longer required. Thank you for your years of work. They hung up their poles, they said quiet goodbyes. Some found other work, some retired. The younger ones adapted, learned new trades. The older ones struggled, this was all they'd known. There was no ceremony, no grand farewell. Just the end of a job that had been done well for many years. One lamplighter in London lit his last lamp in 1929. He had walked the same streets for 40 years. He knew every crack in the pavement, every door, every face. And now it was over. He stood for a moment, looking at the electric lights humming overhead. Then he walked home, his pole over his shoulder. The world moved forward, the lights stayed on. But something was lost in the change. The rhythm of evening, the quiet figure moving through the streets. The knowledge that someone was out there, tending the light. The personal connection, the human touch. Electric lights needed maintenance too, but it was different. A technician in a truck, replacing bulbs, fixing wires. Not a daily ritual, not a familiar face. Just efficiency, just function. The romance was gone, the poetry. No more watching the lights bloom one by one. No more seeing the lamplighter's silhouette against the dusk. No more soft whoosh of gas igniting. Just the hum of electricity, constant, unchanging. Today, we flip a switch and barely think about it. Light is instant, abundant, cheap. We take it for granted, we waste it. We leave lights on in empty rooms. We illuminate entire cities all night long. The darkness has been banished almost completely. And with it, the people who once held it at bay. But once, not so long ago, light was a gift. Carried by hand, lit with care. Something precious, something tended. And the lamplighters were the ones who gave it to us. Every single night. They walked through cold and rain and wind. They climbed ladders and trimmed wicks and cleaned glass. They knew every lamp, every street, every corner. They were part of the community, part of the evening. A small but essential thread in the fabric of daily life. And now they're gone, remembered only in old photographs. In history books, in stories like this one. But their work mattered, their service meant something. They lit the way for millions of people across hundreds of years. They made the night less frightening. They brought warmth to the darkness. And though the world has moved on, Though technology has replaced them, their legacy remains. Every time we turn on a light without thinking, we owe them a debt. They were the first, the original keepers of the light. The lamplighters, quiet, steady, faithful. Gone now but not forgotten.